Have you ever been talking to a man who seemed incredibly into you one moment, and then suddenly, almost out of nowhere, he pulls back just a little? Maybe he takes longer to reply. Maybe he gets quieter, or maybe he starts acting like he's trying to figure out what to do next. And in your mind, that tiny shift makes alarm bells ring. Is he losing interest? Did something change? Is he avoiding me? But here's the twist almost nobody talks about. Sometimes that distance isn't a sign of fading interest at all. In fact, it can be one of the strongest signs that he's falling harder for you than he planned. And that's exactly what we're uncovering today. Because the truth is this: when a man begins to feel deeper emotions, real, vulnerable, shake his world kind of emotions, it can overwhelm him. Even the most confident men, even the most emotionally intelligent ones, can suddenly feel like they're standing on a cliff they never expected. And instead of leaning in, their instinct is to pause, to breathe, to recalibrate, to figure out what this feeling means. So before you assume he's pulling away, before you convince yourself something is wrong, let's look at what's actually happening beneath the surface. Because what looks like distance might actually be a moment of intense internal conflict. I care about her more than I've admitted. What do I do now? In this video, you're going to learn the subtle emotional signals that reveal the truth behind his behavior. And once you understand these hidden cues, you'll never misinterpret this moment again. Let's get into it, starting with the real reason he seems distant, and why that might be the biggest sign of love you've missed. To really understand why a man might seem distant right at the moment he's falling in love, we have to look at what's happening inside his mind. The part he rarely talks about, even to his closest friends. Men are often taught from a young age to stay composed, stay in control, and never let emotions dictate their actions. So when he starts developing strong feelings for you, feelings that move quickly or intensely, his internal world gets louder than he's prepared for. Unlike women, who tend to process emotions by talking, sharing, or seeking reassurance, many men process internally. They go inward. They retreat into their thoughts, trying to decode what's happening before they allow themselves to act. This isn't avoidance, it's emotional calculation. His mind begins running through silent questions he won't say out loud. Is this real? Can I trust how I feel? What if I mess this up? Does she feel the same way? Am I ready for what this could become? And here's the key: men often don't pull back because they're unsure about you. They pull back because they're unsure about themselves. The feeling is big, it's unexpected, and it puts pressure on them to show up differently. There's also an instinctual response at play. When a man realizes he's losing emotional control, even in a good way, his mind temporarily switches into self-protection mode. Not because he's afraid of you, but because he's afraid of misstepping, disappointing you, or revealing vulnerability too early. Love for him isn't just a feeling, it's a responsibility. And when he recognizes that responsibility forming, he pauses to make sure he can handle it. This moment of quiet reflection often gets misinterpreted as disinterest. But in reality, it's the opposite. His silence is not a wall, it's a sorting process. He's aligning his emotions with his intentions, trying to ensure his next move is steady and meaningful. When a man is truly falling for you, his brain is working overtime. He's not withdrawing, he's preparing. He's not losing interest, he's grounding himself, and the more intense the feeling, the more he needs that mental space to make sense of what's happening. Understanding this inner psychology changes everything, because now when he pulls back, you'll know he may actually be stepping towards something real. When a man is falling in love, the signs often appear in small, subtle ways before anything major happens. These behaviors may seem random or inconsistent on the surface, but once you understand what they really mean, you'll see the pattern clearly. One of the earliest signs is increased attentiveness. He starts paying attention to details most people overlook. The way your mood changes slightly throughout the day, the things that make you laugh, the topics you're passionate about, the foods you avoid, the tiny inconveniences that stress you out. A man who's falling for you listens differently. It's not just hearing, it's absorbing. He also begins to show micro-protective behavior. It's rarely dramatic. It's simple things: walking on the outside of the sidewalk, making sure you get home safely, checking in on you after a long day, offering help before you ask. These are instinctive reactions, not conscious strategies. His care shows up before he has the courage to verbalize what he feels. Another early sign is inconsistency in his confidence. Around you, he sometimes becomes unexpectedly nervous. He may stumble over his words, overthink his messages, or act slightly awkward even if he's usually composed. This happens because he wants to make a good impression. And the more he cares, the more he notices every move he makes. Then there's the shift in his eyes and body language. When a man is falling in love, his gaze softens without him realizing it. He looks at you longer, and not just when you're speaking. He tries to maintain a respectful distance, but naturally gravitates closer. His body turns toward you, even in group settings. Attraction is physical, but love begins with unconscious alignment. One of the most telling signs is when he starts imagining you in his everyday life. He talks about future plans and subtly places you in them, not in dramatic declarations, but in casual mentions. We should try that place. You'd love this. I can see us doing that someday. He's testing the idea of a you and him scenario, checking if it feels natural. And perhaps the most powerful early sign of love is emotional transparency. He opens up more than he does with most people. He shares thoughts he normally keeps private. He lets you see the unpolished parts of him. Men don't offer emotional access lightly. When they do, it's because you matter. These early signs may seem small, but together they reveal a man who isn't just interested, he's falling. This is the part that confuses almost everyone, the moment when he suddenly steps back right when things are going well. You're connecting deeply, conversations feel effortless, chemistry is building, and then, out of nowhere, he becomes quieter, slower, or just a little less present. It can feel like a shift in the energy, and it's easy to assume something went wrong. But here's the truth. Sometimes the pullback isn't about losing interest, it's about emotional impact. When a man begins to realize how much he cares, it creates a level of vulnerability he didn't anticipate. He starts to understand that you're not just someone he likes, you're someone he could actually lose. And that realization is powerful. What looks like distance is often him regulating. He's slowing down to process the depth of his feelings and the responsibility that comes with them. When the connection becomes meaningful, he needs a moment to steady himself emotionally. This isn't a retreat, it's a recalibration. Men are wired to want to show up correctly. They want to be solid, stable, secure. So when the emotional stakes rise, their instinct is to pause and ask themselves, am I ready for this? Can I give her what she deserves? Is this the real thing? Do I trust myself with her heart? The pullback is him trying to answer these questions without rushing into something he's not prepared to mishandle. And here's the key. When his feelings are strong, he becomes more aware of the consequences of messing things up. He doesn't want to hurt you. He doesn't want to lead you on. He wants to make sure that if he steps forward, it's with intention, not impulse. Sometimes during this pullback, he watches you more than he speaks. He pays attention to how you react, whether you panic, pressure him, or give him space. A secure, patient response often reassures him that the connection is real and safe. The pullback that means he cares is different from avoidance. Avoidance feels dismissive, disconnected, indifferent. But the love-driven pullback is thoughtful. He still checks in, still responds, still keeps the connection alive, just at a pace that lets him catch up emotionally. This moment isn't a sign of fading interest. It's the breath before the commitment. The quiet before he chooses to step toward you with clarity, intention, and a deeper understanding of what you truly mean to him. One of the most misunderstood signs of a man falling in love is nervousness. Not the obvious kind, like sweaty palms or stuttering, but the subtle anxiety that shows up in his tone, his timing, or the way he behaves around you. And the irony, he's not nervous because he doubts you. He's nervous because he cares so deeply that he doesn't want to get anything wrong. When a man genuinely loves someone, the emotional stakes rise dramatically. Suddenly, your opinion matters. Your reactions matter. How you see him matters. And the more he realizes how much he wants to be seen in the right way, the more pressure he feels internally. This nervousness often shows up in his body language. He might straighten his posture when you enter the room, adjust his clothes without realizing it, or become more attentive to his appearance. It's not vanity, it's instinct. He wants to be worthy of your attention. You might also notice hesitation in his words. He'll start a sentence, rethink it midway, and try again. He wants to impress you with his honesty, not overwhelm you with too much too soon. He second guesses himself because your presence matters more than he's ready to admit. Another source of nervousness is the fear of vulnerability. Love cracks open parts of him he's kept private for years. Being around you makes him feel seen in ways he doesn't fully understand yet. And vulnerability, even when it's beautiful, can feel dangerous to someone who isn't used to it. Here's something deeper. Men often feel nervous when they sense long-term potential. If he sees you as someone who could truly matter, someone he could build with, he becomes hyper-aware of his own actions. He doesn't want to rush, push too hard, or say something that makes you think he's not serious. So he becomes cautious, sometimes overly cautious. And yes, this can lead to mixed signals. One moment he's confident and affectionate, and the next he's quiet or slightly awkward. That inconsistency isn't confusion, it's emotional overload. You don't make him uncomfortable, you make him hopeful, and hope for many men is a feeling they're not used to managing. The bottom line is this: his nervousness is not a sign of doubt, it's a sign of depth, a sign that your presence reaches him in a way few people ever have. When a man gets nervous around you, it's because he already feels the gravity of what this could become. When a man is deeply emotionally invested, his actions begin to shift in ways that are subtle, yet unmistakably genuine. And the interesting part is, these signs often appear before he openly expresses how he feels. They show up in his habits, his priorities, and the way he treats you compared to everyone else. One of the strongest signs is consistency without being asked. A man who's emotionally invested doesn't show up only when it's convenient. He shows up because he wants to. He messages you even on his busiest days, checks in without prompts, and makes an effort to stay emotionally connected. This isn't obligation, it's alignment with his feelings. Another powerful sign is when he starts protecting your emotional space. He cares about how his words affect you. He pays attention to what hurts you, what comforts you, and what makes you feel understood. If he senses you're stressed or overwhelmed, he tries to lighten the load. If he senses you're quiet, he gently checks in instead of ignoring the shift. Emotional awareness is a major indicator of real investment. You'll also notice him becoming more generous with his time and energy. Time is one of the biggest love languages for men. When he chooses to spend his free time with you, especially when he rearranges things or prioritizes you, that's not casual interest. That's commitment forming. Another sign is integrating you into his personal world. He starts introducing you to people who matter to him, his closest friends, trusted co-workers, or even family members, when he feels the moment is right. Men don't bring just anyone into their inner circle. If he's blending his life with yours, he sees long-term potential. Pay attention to his thoughtfulness. A deeply invested man remembers things that seem small. How you take your coffee, the story you mentioned once in passing, the goals you told him about months ago. He brings up details not to impress you, but because he's genuinely listening, and your happiness matters to him. And finally, one of the most defining actions is showing up during difficult moments. Anyone can be present during fun, easy times. But a man who's emotionally invested stays when things get messy, stressful, or uncertain. He doesn't disappear when you're struggling. He leans in. These actions aren't dramatic or theatrical. They're steady, sincere, and unmistakable. When a man invests emotionally, he doesn't just say it. He proves it through the way he shows up, day after day. One of the biggest misconceptions in dating is mistaking a man's overthinking for avoidance. It's easy to assume that if he pulls back, doesn't text immediately, or seems hesitant, he's losing interest. But in reality, the difference between overthinking and avoiding is subtle, and understanding it can completely change how you interpret his behavior. Overthinking is a sign of care. When a man overthinks, he's mentally running scenarios in his head, how to respond to your message, what to say on your next date, or whether his actions will reflect how he truly feels. He's not avoiding you, he's trying to navigate the depth of his emotions carefully. Overthinking comes from the desire to get it right because he values the relationship and doesn't want to mess it up. Avoidance, on the other hand, is a sign of detachment. It's passive, indifferent, and often consistent. A man who avoids doesn't overanalyze or hesitate. he just disappears or disengages, emotionally and physically. Avoidance feels like a wall. Overthinking feels like a storm in his head that he can't turn off. There are a few key indicators to tell the difference. Communication patterns. Overthinkers may take longer to reply, but when they do, their messages are thoughtful, engaging, and consistent. Avoiders respond inconsistently, often leaving you unsure if you even matter. Body language and engagement. Overthinkers lean in when you're together, show genuine interest, and try to connect emotionally. Avoiders often seem distant, distracted, or uninterested. Intent versus action. Overthinkers may pause because they want to respond perfectly, or avoid saying the wrong thing. Avoiders pause because they don't intend to engage meaningfully at all. Patterns over time. Overthinking is temporary and situational. Avoidance is recurring and creates emotional distance, leaving you uncertain about his intentions. Understanding this difference is critical because it prevents misinterpretation. When you recognize overthinking, you respond with patience and reassurance, allowing him the space to process his emotions without feeling pressured. It also helps you appreciate that his pauses or hesitations are a sign of care, not disinterest. Remember, the overthinking man is often the one who ends up emotionally invested the most. Avoiders rarely stick around for the long haul. Recognizing the difference gives you clarity and prevents unnecessary heartbreak. Not all love is spoken. In fact, some of the strongest signs a man is falling in love are completely nonverbal. You might notice it in the way he looks at you, the small gestures he makes, or the little habits he develops when you're around. These cues often reveal more than words ever could, because they come straight from his instincts and emotions. For instance, pay attention to his eyes. The way he looks at you can tell you a lot about what he feels. He may hold your gaze just a little longer than usual, or his eyes may soften when you speak. It's subtle, but it communicates affection, attention, and genuine interest in a way words can't match. Body language is another huge signal. He might unconsciously angle his body toward you, even in a crowded room, or mirror your gestures without realizing it. These actions are a sign that he's mentally and emotionally present, that he's invested in connecting with you beyond superficial conversation. Small touches, brushing against your hand, a gentle pat on the shoulder, or even a playful nudge are also signals that he's comfortable with intimacy and wants to create closeness. You might notice how he reacts to your moods. He doesn't just respond when you speak. He observes and reacts in subtle ways, like offering support when you're quiet or adjusting his behavior to make you feel more at ease. These micro adjustments show he's paying attention, not just to what you say, but to how you feel. Even the little things like remembering tiny details about your day or doing small favors without being asked are nonverbal ways of saying, "I care about you and I'm thinking of you." Men who are falling in love often communicate through action rather than words because it feels safer or more authentic to show care in a tangible way rather than putting it into phrases that might feel vulnerable. Understanding how a man communicates without words gives you a clearer picture of his feelings. The next time he pauses, looks at you, or acts in ways that seem subtle but intentional, you'll recognize that these gestures are part of his language of love, quiet, consistent, and deeply meaningful. When a man is truly in love, his behavior changes in ways that are subtle but unmistakable. These are not grand gestures meant to impress anyone else. They're quiet, consistent actions he reserves only for someone who has captured his heart. One of the clearest signs is how he prioritizes you in his daily life. He goes out of his way to check in, remembers the small details about your routines, and adjusts his schedule to make time for you. These aren't obligations. They're choices he makes because being present for you feels natural and important. You'll also notice a level of thoughtfulness that goes beyond normal kindness. He anticipates your needs before you even mention them, whether it's picking up your favorite snack, sending a message to brighten your day, or offering support when he senses you're stressed. This kind of attention shows that he's tuned into your world and genuinely invested in your happiness. It's not about proving anything to anyone else. It's about showing you that you matter to him. Another behavior unique to love is vulnerability. A man who loves you will open up emotionally in ways he rarely does with anyone else. He shares his fears, dreams, and insecurities, trusting that you'll handle them with care. He seeks your advice or simply wants your perspective because he values your input and feels safe enough to be authentic around you. Emotional transparency like this is a major signal that he sees a future with you and isn't afraid to let you in. Pay attention to his protective instincts as well. This isn't about possessiveness or control, it's about caring. He wants to ensure your well-being, supports your goals, and stands by you during challenges. He will step in to defend you when necessary, but more importantly, he creates a safe emotional space where you feel valued and secure. Finally, a man in love invests in the relationship over the long term. He doesn't just show up for the fun or easy moments. He remains present during difficult times, makes an effort to resolve conflicts thoughtfully, and consistently demonstrates loyalty and commitment. These behaviors, though often quiet and understated, reveal a depth of feeling that words alone cannot capture. When you notice these consistent, thoughtful, and emotionally attuned actions, it's a clear sign he isn't just interested, he's deeply in love, and his actions are reserved specifically for you. When a man is showing signs of love, how you respond can either strengthen the connection or unintentionally create distance. The key is to approach his feelings with understanding, patience, and clarity. One of the most important things to remember is that his actions often speak louder than words. If he's consistent in his efforts, thoughtful in his gestures, or even just attentive to the little things about you, responding with appreciation and acknowledgement goes a long way. You don't have to overanalyze or overdo it. Simply recognizing his care communicates that his efforts are noticed and valued. It's equally important to match his emotional pace. If he's thoughtful, reflective, or even occasionally hesitant, avoid pressuring him for immediate reassurance or grand declarations. Men often show love in quieter, more subtle ways, and rushing them can make them pull back. Instead, respond with patience, encouragement, and gentle curiosity. Ask questions that invite conversation rather than interrogation, and mirror his openness by sharing your feelings honestly, without making it feel like a test. Listening is another crucial way to respond effectively. When he talks about his dreams, fears, or even the small details of his day, truly engage. Make him feel that his emotions are safe with you. Simple responses like validating his feelings or acknowledging his effort can create a sense of security that encourages him to continue opening up. Avoid dismissive or critical reactions, as these can shut down communication and leave him questioning how much he can share. At the same time, maintain your own boundaries and individuality. Responding doesn't mean losing yourself in his emotions. Show that you appreciate him while still honoring your own needs, interests, and pace. This balance communicates maturity and respect, and it strengthens mutual trust. Finally, small gestures of reciprocity can amplify connection without feeling forced. Thoughtful messages, unexpected acts of kindness, or even just checking in when you know he might need support, show that you notice his love and respond in kind. These actions reinforce the emotional rhythm of the relationship and help him feel that his investment is both seen and valued. In short, responding to a man's love isn't about grand declarations or dramatic gestures. It's about patience, attentiveness, validation, and a steady reflection of care. When you respond thoughtfully, you create an environment where his feelings can flourish, deepen your bond, and allow both of you to navigate love with clarity and confidence. By now you've seen that the signs of a man truly in love are rarely loud or flashy. They're found in the small, consistent actions, the moments of attentiveness, and the subtle ways he prioritizes you. Understanding these behaviors is more than just a checklist. It's about seeing the depth of his feelings and recognizing the kind of emotional investment he's willing to make. When you know how to read these signs, it changes the way you interpret his behavior and allows you to respond in a way that nurtures the connection. One of the most important takeaways is that love isn't always obvious or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's in the gestures that go unnoticed by the outside world, like remembering details you mentioned in passing, adjusting his schedule to be with you, or simply showing up consistently even on days when it's inconvenient. Recognizing these signs allows you to see the genuine effort he's making and differentiate between someone who is genuinely invested and someone who is just casually interested. It's also important to remember that relationships are a two-way street. While his actions reveal his feelings, how you respond matters just as much. Respond with patience, appreciation, and understanding, and you create a safe space where his love can grow. Reflecting his care through your actions and communication strengthens the bond, builds trust, and encourages deeper emotional intimacy. Another critical point is that understanding these behaviors helps reduce misinterpretation. Many women assume distance or hesitation means lack of interest, when in reality it can signal overthinking, nervousness, or deep emotional investment. Recognizing the difference prevents unnecessary frustration or doubt and gives you clarity about where you both stand. Finally, the bigger picture is about awareness and intentionality in love. When you know what signs to look for, you're able to engage with a man's feelings consciously and thoughtfully. This means you can respond in ways that reinforce connection, deepen trust, and cultivate a meaningful partnership. Love is not just about words or fleeting gestures, it's about consistent, sincere effort and the willingness to invest emotionally in each other's lives. In conclusion, noticing these subtle signals and understanding their meaning allows you to navigate your relationship with insight, patience, and confidence. It's about seeing beyond surface-level actions, recognizing his emotional investment, and responding in ways that build a lasting, meaningful connection. When you do this, you don't just understand love, you experience it fully.